Hi, I'm Al Martinez and welcome to Untrashed. Today I'm going to show you how to make paper from all the junk mail and envelopes and all of this stuff that you get. So what I do is I cut the envelopes open. There's some envelopes that have little plastic windows and I cut those out. And I take all this paper and I run it through my shredder. So once you've run it through your shredder, it comes out like this. Little fine pieces of paper. So I take this paper pulp and I put it in a bucket of water. Whoops. And I let it soak for about at least 3 days. So once you've done that, then you're going to take that pulp and we're going to put it in the blender. And we're going to pulverize it. So I put about half of the blender with pulp and the rest with water. And then we make a smoothie after we've turned the power on. Here we go. So here we go. So you can see the chunks, and what we want to do is we want to make it look like a really thin soup that's gray. So this blender is a used blender. I picked it up at the thrift store for $5. You don't want to use your parents' good blender. You can see that it's getting thinner and thinner. The chunks are disappearing. It's looking more like a nice smoothie. So you can see that it looks smoother. And look at that. Nice, delicious smoothie. So I'm going to pour this in this bucket, and this bucket I've filled with water, and I've put at least 2 of these in that we're going to make paper from. So now the next thing you need is called a mold and a decal. Now you can buy these, but I made my own, and basically what I did is I made 2 of these little wooden frames, and one of these little wooden frames I got an old window that had screen on it, and I cut it out. And I basically screwed it to this piece of wood. You can see I've got brass screws and little bits of metal there. And used brass so it wouldn't rust. So the way you use this is called the mold. And I put this on the decal. And then we're going to pull some pulp here. So what you do is you take your mold and your decal like this. You stir up your pulp. Then I'm going to take my mold and decal, dip it in here like this. I bring it up level and I give it a little bit of shake in 2 directions, and I just basically watch the water level, because what's going to happen is that the water is going to drain through the pulp and the screen. You can see the water draining there. When it gets to a little dribble, like that, I'm going to take the mold off, put that aside, and you can see this piece of paper is going to be pretty thick. But what happens is that every time you pull a piece of paper out, use less and less pulp, so the paper is going to be thinner. Now the other thing you need to do is you've got some sheet material, which I'll show you here. So this board here is where I'm going to transfer the pulp to. So I just need to make sure that it's wet. because it's the surface tension between the pulp and the sheet fabric that's going to let me transfer it onto this. So I'll take my decal here, and then I'm just going to push this down just lightly. And as I push down and raise this end, I can see the screen coming away from the pulp, and I watch the water until I can see the screen come away. So that's our first piece of paper right there. So I'll set that there. Take another piece of sheet, and this is just basically an old sheet that I just tore up into this size. So I put it right on top. Take out all the wrinkles, and this you can smooth with your hands, just like that. Okay. If you've done several sessions of pulling paper, you're going to find little bits of sheet or pulp on the sheet, and you just rub those away. So we're ready to do another one. So I take my mold, put it on my decal, mix up the pulp, and when you mix this pulp, what you want to look for is like a complete fog in the water. So again, I pull that up. Give it a little bit of shake both ways. And what the shaking does is it gets the fibers to interlock. If you tilt it too much, you can see that I got some run in the pulp. But that's okay. Take the mold off. Drain a bit more water. Now we're going to do another couching here. So I try to lay the pulp right over the top of that last pulp. Watching my screen come away from the pulp. And there you've got another layer. Get another piece of sheet. Lay it on top. Smooth out the wrinkles. And we're ready to do another one. So depending on how much pulp you've made, you can make a dozen or 15 sheets. You just need to keep adding pulp. So the thing you want to be aware of is every time you pull a sheet is how thin it looks on your screen. So basically you just keep doing this for as long as you think you've got pulp. So today I'm just going to pull 4 sheets, and the last sheet we're going to do some lamination. So that's 3. This is sheet number 4. And if you're going to do lamination, do it towards the end of your pulp, so your layers of pulp are not too thick. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this board I made specifically for this process, but you don't have to have it curved. Some people use a flat surface, and what they do is they just basically push their decal down onto the piece of cloth, push down like this, and then gently lift one edge like this to make sure that your pulp is down flat. So you don't have to make one of these, but I made this because I do a lot of paper. So this next one we're going to do some lamination. So I'm going to put another sheet down. So that's one layer of pulp there. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put something between these 2 layers of pulp. And what I did the other day is I did one with leaves in it. So you can use leaves, or you can cut out pieces of paper with different shapes. So I've got 2 pieces of paper here that I'm going to lay on here. They're going to be between the pulp. And what you'll notice is that when paper starts to get wet, it starts curling. So before you put your next layer of pulp on, you just want to make sure that your paper isn't curled up. So I'm going to put this leaf there. Okay, so now we're ready to do the second layer of pulp. Mix my water. I can see already that this layer of pulp is quite thin, but that's okay, because if you want your lamination things to show through, it's better if your paper's not too thick. So there we go. If you could look down on this, you could see the leaves in the black paper through the top layer of pulp. So I'm just going to set that aside for now. Now, I'm just going to put one more sheet of cloth over the top of this. And then the next step is to squeeze the water out of here. So a couple ways you can do this. And one of the ways I did it in the beginning was I basically just got 2 pieces of wood and put all of these sheets here between the wood, and then stood on top of it to squeeze the water out. But what I've done is I've made this press, and this press is specifically for squeezing the water out of this. So I take these off this coaching board like this. I'm going to put it onto this flat board here in the press. Then I take this other heavy piece, put it on top, and I've got a bottle jack here that fits in here like that. Make sure the valve's closed. Got a couple little blocks here, spacers. It's going like that. And then basically just pump. And you can see here that the water is going to get squished out. So once you've done that, we're going to undo the jack. So open the jack. Take the jack off. Now you're going to need a screwdriver or something to wedge in here, because the water is basically like glue, so it's holding the 2 parts really tight together. So I'm going to stick something in here that pops it loose. So then I can lift this thing off. And pull these out. So I'm going to pull this whole thing out and put it on the table, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hang these up to dry. So I take this top layer of sheet off. Set that aside. So this first piece of paper here is the one that's laminated. So I've got one sheet here, and when I gently pull it off, I look underneath to make sure I'm not lifting the next layer of pulp off. So that's ready to hang to dry. So we're going to hang it up here. And we do the next one. So the next one, I just carefully peel that. I think I've got two here. Yeah. Okay. That's better. That's another one here. So I'm just going to hang one more, and then I'll show you what it's like when they're dry. So essentially, you just need to let those dry. So these are the things you don't stick in the dryer, you let them hang to dry. So when they're dry, they're like this. So these I made yesterday. So you can see here that the paper is stuck to the cloth. And what I do is I just gently grab a corner and I like to pull it off at a diagonal. That seems to work better. So there you have a sheet of paper. So there you go. You've got handmade paper, and by the way, this edge is called a decal edge because it's made with a decal. So it means that this paper has that rough edge, the way that it's been pulled out of the water. So there you go. So you've got all this paper, and the ones that have laminations, you can see the laminations if you hold it up to the light. That's one. That's another one I did the other day. And here's another one I did yesterday. And what you can do with this paper, you can do a lot of things. The things that I've done with paper is I've actually made some books. So you can fold this paper into pages and stitch the book together to have a book with handmade paper. This kind of paper is great to do drawings with gel pens, different colors. And these are just plain cheap gel pens, but they're really colorful. So that's basically it. You don't need a lot of technological stuff. You can do this with basic things. And what you do with the paper is basically up to you. So remember, thank you for watching, and every little bit of Untrashed helps. Thanks.